Hey everyone, Alpha Eagle here again. Welcome back to my channel. I pray you're all doing well and may God bless you all. In this video, we'll be talking about the X-Men 97 controversy. Now, before we begin, I'd like to say don't go after anyone I'll be talking about in this video. First, I'd like to talk about the tweets made by X-Men 97 writer Charlie Feldman. She says, "It's to a point where anytime I pass a 20-something lone white male, I feel the need to ask them to please not shoot people, just in case." Now, imagine if she said that exact same thing about young black men. She would be called a racist, correct? She would be fired from her job as a writer for X-Men 97, correct? But for some reason, being racist to white people and sexist to men is allowed in our society and even rewarded. Here we have an obvious racist and sexist writing for X-Men 97, a show which many people claim is supposedly about fighting prejudice and bigotry. Yeah, but that's the clown world we live in. Anyway, moving on. Next, they took our cake away, people. Now, compared to other things, this seems kind of minor, but all the small things add up. Now, we've seen a pattern of this in media lately. They've been making women less feminine and more masculine, or even androgynous. Now, they do this to blur the lines between men and women, to make people believe that we are all the same and that there's no differences between men and women. Now, finally, onto the main controversy about Morph's gender identity. Now, this whole thing started with a tweet from X-Men Updates. It says, "This is a lighter take on the character." Well, I thought he was always supposed to be a funny character. Anyway, continuing. "Who is non-binary?" Well, no, he's not, and we'll get to that later. Continuing. "And has an interesting buddy relationship with Wolverine." Now, we'll see what Wolverine thinks about that. Continuing. "The character is passed with Mr. Sinister, the show's villain." Well, hopefully he's not the only villain. Continuing. "Could also come into play." Now, regarding Morph supposedly being non-binary, they are factually wrong. I've checked several websites and they all say that Morph's gender is male. And even in the original series, they refer to him as he or him.
Morph. He's gone.
Now, in that clip, Beast said, "Morph, he's gone." Here's another clip.
What about Morph? He's gone, mon ami.
In that clip, Gambit said, "He's gone," referring to Morph. So the writers of X-Men 97 clearly don't understand the characters they're writing for. Now let's take a look at a short from Eric Debunks.
Oh my gosh, what is this? Is this what I believe it is? Oh my god. It is North Star, an openly gay superhero, the first openly gay superhero in Marvel Comics history, appearing on X-Men the Animated Series from back in the 90s. Not only was North Star the first openly gay superhero in Marvel Comics history, his first appearance was in X-Men number 120, which was all the way back in 1979. Now explain to me how him being an openly gay character appearing in this cartoon had any effect at all on the wokeness of the X-Men animated series from the 90s.
So apparently his argument is that if we didn't complain of a gay character like North Star being in the X-Men animated series in the 90s, we shouldn't be complaining about Morph being non-binary now. Well, the thing is that Eric is conveniently omitting is that while yes, North Star was created in 1979, he wasn't retconned to be gay until 13 years later. Also, he wasn't portrayed as openly gay in the cartoon. So, as usual, Eric is being a disingenuous liar. Now let's move on to the main event. I will be reacting to Saggy Melonz' reaction, to Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers' reaction to the Morph controversy. Now let's begin by hearing Saggy brag about her X-Men knowledge.
Maybe y'all should just take a few more seconds on Google and do some fucking research. So when people are coming at me like, I know my shit, I'm not fucking dumb, I remember this shit.
Now let's hear what she had to say about Jubilee.
It's true, Jubilee was an original character created for the 90s cartoon. And Jubilee is definitely a lesbian.
Sorry, Saggy, but you're wrong. Jubilee was not created for the animated series. She first appeared in Uncanny X-Men 244 in 1989, 3 years before the debut of the animated series. And in the DC versus Marvel crossover, she hated the fact that she had to fight Tim Drake Robin because she was attracted to him. So, she is not gay or bi, and neither is Tim Drake, no matter how much these sick, perverted people want them to be. So I think Saggy should take some of her own advice and do some research. Now, let's hear why Saggy thinks that it makes sense for Morph to be non-binary.
The character Morph being non-binary makes sense for the character considering their abilities.
So, a character's gender and sexuality is determined by their powers now? That makes no sense whatsoever. So by her own logic, Beast must be a furry because he's covered in fur. Or Rogue must be asexual since nobody can touch her. Or Sunfire must be a flaming homosexual because he has fire powers. Now, do you see how dumb your argument is, Saggy?
On Twitter was like, but they identify as male. Yes, of course they did. Because as Loki pretty much pointed out, non-binary didn't exist.
Non-binary never existed because it's imaginary. It's not real. There are only two genders, male or female. A man who claims to be non-binary is nothing more than a feminine man, but he's still a man. A non-binary woman is just a masculine woman, but she's still a woman. Yes, masculinity and femininity are on a spectrum, but gender is not. There are only men and women.
And yes, Mystique can do the same thing. So if they did it for Mystique, now is everyone going to say, oh, it's woke because Mystique is non-binary? It's kind of the same.
I said that it was woke when they claimed that Mystique was actually Nightcrawler's father and not his mother. Mystique's powers do not work like that. She can look like a man, but she does not have a functioning penis or testicles. And anyone who says she can doesn't understand the character, and I'm including the writers who say she can.
Concept. They're characters who could morph into different genders. It makes sense. I ain't mad at it.
You were mad at it when you said this about Florida's parents' rights in education bill.
Be an age demographic limit of like where they insert like I guess education on homosexuality, right? I'm talking about at least like middle school years, at least when puberty starts for us, where we are figuring out who we are as a our own identity. That's usually when we're figuring out it. I don't feel like they need to know what that is at 6 years old. Like figure that out when you get older. Like let them enjoy childhood before they have to struggle with the reality of what being homosexual, transgender is, and that struggle. Like let them enjoy childhood. That's all. That's my main thing, and it's like a pet peeve because like I think kids should just be kids. Let kids enjoy youth. Let them just enjoy being ignorant and children. That's basically what I feel.
You were right about that. Kids should be allowed to be kids, and homosexuality, gender identity, and this imaginary, non-binary crap shouldn't be pushed on kids. And that's exactly what Disney is doing with this X-Men 97 series. They are grooming kids. So why are you for this grooming now when you weren't back then? Please have some consistency, Saggy. Now, Saggy claims that X-Men was always woke.
Men is all about, and I know people hate when I say that I hate the word woke, but it was. Mutants were representations of difference. It was literally all politics, and it was about discrimination. I'm sorry y'all forgot that X-Men was the wokest fucking comic book that the anti-woke people are trying to fucking use to push their anti-woke bullshit.
I don't think that Saggy knows what woke means as it is used by conservatives today. Woke, as I define it, is a conservative slang term that means an overcompensation for a perceived problem that doesn't actually exist. In other words, it's a change that is made to fix a perceived social injustice that doesn't really exist. In this case, they changed Morph to add diversity to a team that was already diverse. The original X-Men, the animated series, didn't make any changes from the comic that was done to fix some kind of perceived social injustice. There was no race changes, there was no sexuality changes, there was no gender changes. The straight white males weren't pushed aside or belittled to make room for the women or minorities. Therefore, it wasn't woke. Simply being diverse doesn't make it woke. Having a story accepting of people's differences doesn't make it woke. Let me ask you this, Saggy. If the X-Men were already woke, why did they feel the need to change Morph? If they were woke, they wouldn't need to change anything now, would they? So why was this change made if they were already woke? If they were really woke, well, apparently they weren't woke enough. So let's see what Saggy has to say about Morph being buddies with Wolverine.
See, the only thing I have that's interesting that I would say would be a little weird is like when they said that the relationship with Wolverine. I'm like, all right, we don't need to see Wolverine be with Morph. That's a little weird. I don't like that.
Hey, I can agree with you here. I think that most people don't want to see Morph in a relationship with Wolverine. But what I don't understand is why is it okay for them to change Morph's gender, but it's not okay for them to be in a relationship? Again, I agree with you, but why is that your line? Why does changing Morph's gender not cross the line for you? The left is going to call you a homophobic bigot for not accepting their relationship, if they have one. But again, I agree with you. If Morph hit on Wolverine, Wolverine would kick his ass. Now, do you remember when Wolverine said this to Cyclops?
What's the matter? Teacher's pet got cold feet. Anytime, pretty boy.
When Wolverine called Cyclops a pretty boy, he wasn't complimenting his looks. Wolverine was essentially calling Cyclops the F-slur for homosexuals. Wolverine wouldn't be down for any of this gay shit. The left hate Wolverine. He is the walking embodiment of toxic masculinity to these people. So I wonder how they will ruin him in this show. The character the left hates is Nightcrawler. That's because he's a Christian conservative. He would not be down for this gay shit either. He wouldn't be a jerk to Morph, but he would say that Morph is a sinner. Otherwise, they don't get the character. So I'm sure they'll ruin him too. Anyway, that's about it for this video. I'm Alpha Eagle. God bless you for watching. God bless America. And I pray that Hollywood gets back to normal and stops it with this woke garbage. I also pray that Saggy Melonz is a little bit more consistent with her views.